All right, so let's get right into it. We're going to talk about a guy who was supposed to live this totally planned out life, but he just said nope and followed his own path. And in doing that, he ended up writing the soundtrack for an entire empire. This is the story of a rebel who completely changed the music world. Okay, just imagine for a second, your parents have your entire life figured out for you. You're going to be a lawyer, you're going to make good money, and that's that. But deep down, all you want to do is make music. Seriously, what do you do? Because that was the exact choice facing one of the greatest composers in history. So meet George Frideric Handel. He was born way back in 1685 in Germany, and his dad was absolutely determined that he was going to study law, no arguments. But Handel, he was all in on music. It was his whole world. And this, right here, was the first huge showdown of his life. But he didn't just give up. No way. He actually practiced music in secret. He got so good that he eventually hooked up with a teacher, Friedrich Wilhelm Zachow, who showed him the ropes, taught him how to write for all different instruments. The guy was pretty much living a double life. So once the secret was out, Handel decided to go all in. And you can kind of think of this next chapter of his life like he's in a video game. He knew he had the talent, the raw skill, but to truly become a master, he had to go on this big tour to level up. And here's what his training quest looked like. He started at home in Halle, learning all the basics. Then it was off to Hamburg to get some real experience performing. You know, kind of like playing your first big shows. But the final boss level, that was Italy. Going there in 1706 to study opera, that was like a top gamer today moving to South Korea to train with the world's best pros. It was a total game changer. And in Italy, wow, he didn't just learn about opera, he completely mastered it. He soaked up that super dramatic, emotional style, got famous as a composer and a performer, and basically locked in the musical style that would define his entire career. This skill boost was everything. So after he basically conquered the Italian music scene, Handel was looking for a new world to explore. In 1712, he made a huge move to England and just decided to stay. And this is where the story gets really wild. This is how a German prodigy who trained in Italy somehow became a British national hero. So how'd he pull it off? By giving the people what they wanted. Handel wrote over 40 operas. That is a ton of music. He took that big, dramatic Italian style he was so good at and remixed it just right for English audiences. And they went nuts for it. He became a total superstar, the talk of the town. But you know how it is with trends. They don't last forever. After years on top, the crowds in London started to get a little bored with Italian opera. Now, a lot of artists would have just faded out right there, but not Handel. He was a genius at adapting. He made one of the biggest, boldest career pivots you'll ever see. He switched from opera to something called an oratorio. So think of it this way. An opera is like a giant blockbuster movie, right? It's got sets, costumes, acting, the whole shebang. An oratorio, though, is more like a concept album or a really epic audiobook. There's no acting or sets, just incredibly powerful music and storytelling. And this is key, he wrote them in English, so now everyone could connect with them. And on top of being a huge celebrity, Handel had one more massive thing going for him. He landed the ultimate sponsorship deal with the British royal family. Think about it. That's like a top streamer getting an exclusive deal with the biggest brand on the planet. And this was about way more than just money. Yeah, the financial stability was great, but it gave him this incredible public platform. He was writing music for gigantic royal events, like coronations. His music literally became the soundtrack of British power and national pride. So with all that royal support and his new, popular oratorial style, he was set up to create his absolute masterpiece. In 1741, he wrote an oratorio that tells the story of Jesus Christ, and you have definitely heard of it. It's called Messiah. And that is not an exaggeration. It is still, to this day, considered one of the most popular pieces of classical music on earth. This wasn't just a hit song. It was a global phenomenon that's still being performed all the time, nearly 300 years later. Just think about that. So, why do we still talk about this guy today? It's not just because of one famous piece. His impact, his legacy, is absolutely massive. He didn't just play the game, he completely changed the rules, especially in England. His secret weapon was his ability to mix different styles. You could almost think of him like a master DJ. He'd take these super emotional melodies he learned in Italy, build them on top of the complex, solid musical structure he grew up with in Germany, and then package the whole thing with a vibe that he knew English audiences would connect with. It was a brand new sound. And he made some other huge, game-changing moves. He took choral music, big choirs, and made it popular for everybody, not just for church. He helped create public concerts where anyone could buy a ticket, which is basically how we have modern gigs and concerts. He influenced composers for hundreds of years, and his music became part of England's DNA. So here's the bottom line. The kid who had to practice music in secret, going against everything his dad wanted for him, he didn't just create a great life for himself. By choosing to follow his passion, he literally changed the entire sound of a nation. Which leaves you with a pretty big question to think about, right? Next time you hear a powerful choir in a movie score or you're at a huge concert, think back to Handel. What does our world actually sound like today? All because one person decided to choose music over law. It's kind of amazing to think about.